United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a special Preble Town Board meeting, October 24th, 2022. And the only item on our agenda is the charging stations at Preble. So the first speaker, we have two speakers tonight, and we want to introduce Nicholas Preble of New York Power Authority. Nick?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicholas Preble from the New York Power Authority. I'm the Director of Engineering in our EV charging group.
If you'd like that term, whatever you're comfortable with is fine.
Okay, I'm just
As
gonna,
far as, okay, you wanted to use.
yeah. I'd like to introduce the rest of the team here.
I'm Mario Rafero. I'm Director of Community Government Relations for New York Power Authority.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Bennett. I'm an attorney at Fox Rothschild, and we represent Electrify America.
Hi, I'm Veronica Prezioso. I'm a traffic engineer at Kinley Horn and Associates.
Great. So we're here this evening. Just a little background. So the New York Power Authority in 2019 launched a program called Evolve New York, which is to deploy fast charging EV charging systems throughout New York State. Our goal is to install up to 400 chargers by 2025. Currently, we have 106 chargers across 29 locations throughout the state, and they span all over the state. We identified this location in Preble, New York as a good location as it serves the I-81 corridor. Currently, we have 2 charging stations in Syracuse and 1 in Binghamton. So this is kind of in between, but it's really nice to kind of serve the 81 corridor, as I mentioned. And we have located at the Mirabito gas station at 7073 New York 281. We've also worked with Mirabito at several other locations. I think we have 4 other locations throughout the state, so they're a strong partner with us. We received a building permit towards the end of March to construct this site. We started construction soon thereafter in April, and the goal was to be finished by June. In May, we were about 90% complete with the project. The current cost outlaid is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And there was a site inspection from Jeff, and he identified a few concerns with the charging station location that we'll kind of walk through tonight and ways that we've addressed it. So since May, we've been going back and forth on looking at ways to address some of these concerns. And we believe at this point we've addressed all the concerns, so we're just asking to be able to complete the project. We really probably only have like a month left to complete the project and be able to close out the permit. So what I've provided to everyone is this presentation, as well as all the backup supporting documents that go along with the presentation. So the first slide we have here is regarding the parking spaces all within the right-of-way. So there is a setback for the right-of-way on this property. We are not building in the right-of-way at all. All the charging stations, all the infrastructure, the National Grid transformer is located within the property bounds. The only thing in the actual right-of-way is the parking spaces themselves. So there'll just be some paving. And everything is within the Mirabito property. The bases do not extend past the edge of the pavement, the edge of the road. So that's the key there. The spaces are within the deeded property boundary. Any questions on that one? There was also concern with driver sightage, being able to see the parking spaces when they're pulling into the road or pulling out of the Mirabito parking station. So we're going to address that 2 ways. Well, first, when you drive onto the road, you can see all of the parking spots. The other thing, there currently are some trees when people are driving out of the Preble parking lots. We're going to remove those trees to enhance the sight lines so people are better able to see when people are either pulling in or backing out of the charging station parking spots.
So the trees, how specifically?
So the trees
identified?
are located right here. They're pretty large, like evergreen type trees. So currently, if someone was pulling out of the Marabito parking lot, they would see those trees and might not be able to actually see the parking spots for the charging stations. So when those are removed, the sight lines will be much improved.
So it improves the sight line of someone pulling out of the north egress
Of
and
the
around
Marabito
property.
station. Mhm.
property.
Yep.
And you're planting 4 more new trees? Is that what I'm
Yes,
seeing?
that's
Yeah.
correct. So 4 new planted trees,
Yep.
right here.
Thank you.
So the grading plan, so this was one of the concerns that Jeff's identified when we, it was one of the first things regarding drainage. So there's a drainage ditch that runs kind of along the property edge, runs east to west. We built some curbing that would prevent the flow of that water. So what we're gonna do is remove some of the curbing, like, cut notches out of that, so that the water flow can still continue through that existing deep drainage path, and there won't be any effects on the drainage moving forward. So, from several conversations with folks, we understand that snow removal is a concern, not only, for us building these charging stations, but in general with this property. So we've done a couple things. First, near the parking spots for the charging stations, we're going to increase the area for snow removal in this area. Like with that, removing those trees, there'll be further areas to pile snow. So that's one item. Also, we looked at the entire property and adjacent lots and identified areas for Marabito or for the town to pile snow. We also received a letter from Marabito confirming that they would abide by this plan and that they would not plow any snow into the right of way, into the street, and they would use these areas that we have identified in the snow removal plan.
So Nick, on your drawing here, I see, so I'm pointing to the west and a little bit south of these 4 charging spaces. Is that a snow piling area? There's a hatched gray area there just south of Curry Road. So is that one of the
And that'll,
places to deposit the snow?
correct, and that'll be, fully on the Marabito property.
And so Jeff, you're familiar with that?
Yeah, I am.
Any questions or
I-
comments?
I comment on the snow removal plan is that there's 2 different types of hash marks, one of which is for Curry Road snow. And it shows, to just look at this, it'd be dictating where we're gonna be putting snow. If you first look at that, and we're a equal opportunity snow distributor.
Sure.
When we pull onto that road, the snow goes where it's gonna go, and when we pull off the road,
Sure. So,
it's not gonna change our plowing habits.
yeah, I don't think the
whatsoever.
intention was to suggest how you remove the snow. It was just kind of idea, look at the whole vicinity
Okay.
and just identify some areas to reduce your concern that there wasn't enough area to actually, plow the snow.
Because 2 of them on the north side of Curry Road are actually on Paul Bunyan's property, using the same, right away to place snow on is the same thing that we run into with the charging stations, is actually taking away a place that we normally push snow. And to be clear, 281 is a pretty wide road up through there compared to my road. Half of that snow, the snow from the yellow line of 281, gets pushed over into that intersection. So we're not taking care of just our snow, I'm taking care of the state snow, then it gets pushed onto my road, I can't help that. And then it gets taken, and we plow it. So there's a cumulative effect that unless you're from central New York, that seems very inadequate for places to push snow. a 2 or 3 inch storm, probably. You get 6, 8, 10 inches of snow, everybody's gonna be mad at each other. There's no place to push it. I appreciate your attempts, but until and we get 2, 3 storms a year that are the by gosh storms, and on top of it all, to be very honest with you, that's when everybody's getting off 81, they've got sick white knuckles from driving, and that, we have a hard time plowing it during snowstorms because everybody's pulled into the gas station because they want to get off the interstate for a little while. It's this cumulative snowball effect that, it's been a snowball effect, pun intended, I guess, but it's been problematic. So, I mean, I'm a team player, I've said that all along, and we'll deal with it, but I'll tell you right now, it's gonna be a problem. And I'd be happy to have you come up here in a 10-inch storm and see exactly what I'm talking about, because there's no place to push it. Because I can tell you for a fact, Morabido does not give up one parking spot during a snow event. And any other business gives up parking. Lowe's, you know, your Home Depot, everybody's got big parking lots, they'll lose so many parking spots per inch of snow. And Morabido does not, they've never lost a parking spot in the 8 or 9 years I've been dealing with it. So that snow goes somewhere. I'm just putting it on record that you know, that's a very big concern of mine.
Just to piggyback on top of that, the snow location that's just west of the units there, you know, so you got a pedestrian pathway that's crossing there, which was one of the comments. We'll get into that later though. You know, as the snow builds up there, you're going to create that pile, and it's going to end up on top of that sidewalk, and then it's going to end up closer and closer to the road because there's really no place to push it any further to the south. So what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up blocking pedestrian visibility for all these trucks that are coming out of that driveway, and anybody who's walking down that sidewalk, a truck's not going to see them until the person enters into that parking lot. So that little area that you have marked out there, north or west of the stations there, I don't think it's adequate, you know, kind of piggybacking there, and you're going to end up with a safety concern with the pedestrians that are accessing the convenience store and everything.
Okay, understood. Yeah, I think, I mean, the challenge with the whole area, we can't really do anything to the east because that's in the right of way. And then we can't do anything further south in that area because there is the fill tanks for the gas tanks. So, I mean, I think we could take another look at it to see, you know, what else we need to do. It's just we're a little challenged by space in that specific area.
It is. You're just not going to be able to push snow across the road either, as mentioned. I mean, that's other property. So,
I mean, just a layperson talking, I work the snow blower at home, but that's the level of my expertise, or shoveling around the office. But you know, do you know, Jeff, is Morabido used a loader in the past, or they just push it?
Pickup truck, same as what I drive, same plow, same Western whiteout plows that we do our parking lots and like that with in town. There's the only loader that's ever been up there moving snow has been a town loader. And across the street, Paul Bunyan, they use a loader and snow pusher, you know, big ProTech.
So Nick, I'm not necessarily asking you to address the question, but I mean, to get snow way over on the western portion there, it seems like something other than just pushing would have to occur to get the snow over there.
Because there's a curb there as well.
I don't believe there's a curb that extends along that entire row, though. I think I was just there this evening, and I think that there's like some rocks kind of along a large part of it, and a curb kind of further to the north, the northern side of it.
So we have the letter from Morabido, but I guess notwithstanding that, we have some concerns about ultimately, you know, you get a decent amount of snow, it's gonna be in an accumulation. May become a tougher pledge to fulfill.
Well, the pickup, you can only push it to a curb, you can't go up over it like to the west, which I think might even be over the leach field, but, they're gonna have to bring in heavy equipment to move snow. It's just that or haul it away, you know, have it hauled away. 'Cause there's
And Jeff, where are they pushing it now, typically,
typically out in the road,
into the road?
these places that you're showing here traditionally have not been used for them to store snow. Because it's inconvenient to be plowing with a pickup truck and then pick it over a 6-inch curb to push it out onto the lawn. You can push it 2 or 3 feet into the lawn and then your tires against the curb. You know, for a piece of heavy machinery, you needed to push it out like what they're showing here. And maybe they've got somebody different plowing or somebody bringing in bigger equipment, but, you know, in the past, we've gone up just because the road gets so narrow, we end up taking the snow and pushing it down to the end and pushing it off toward that propane tank toward 81 with the snow pusher, you know, and that's, you know, does the work of 6 or 7 pickup trucks, and you can stack it 12 or 15 foot high. A pickup truck is not gonna do that, so.
So is there something that would get you comfortable with it? Like, is there a certain piece of equipment that you think if we could check in about whether or not that's feasible to provide, like, is there something that could address that
I
concern?
just go back to really, you can't push snow on the road, and the snow is supposed to stay on their property without some kind of agreement with the neighbors across the street, I would think. And yes, it's just a short 600-foot dead end road, but that little dead end road has been taking care of all the snow and for a long time. And that's why years ago we made it a no parking road, because we pull in there and there's tractor trailers, there's everything else, and that's why when that all started, it was over snow removal. It had nothing to do with in the summer. It was a snow issue. Same thing, guys get off 81, they're tired, they want a cup of coffee. You know, there's, other than at the pumps, there's 0 parking for a tractor trailer up there. So, and they were parking right up and down that road. But that's the biggest thing. I mean, how they do it, not to me, but they need to not be pushing it in the road.
Mhm.
I'm the guy that ends up taking the big machine up there and cleaning up their mess all the time. And I just see it getting worse with this, because we're losing a spot and creating more snow all at the same time.
Is the letter about the snow removal plan sufficient for you, or
Don?
to address that? I just asked because I obviously want to make sure that we're addressing their concerns, and also, to the extent we can, we've sufficiently addressed them. I think we have, other things that need to be addressed still.
Do the customers, when they're charging their cars, do they stay in their cars or do they walk over to the convenience store?
A mix of both. Like, some will want to use the restroom, get something to eat, so they'll walk over.
Because it takes how long to, I was reading some of the,
The newer cars could be finished in like 20 minutes, but some of the older cars, it could be like 40 minutes to an hour.
so if the people in the wintertime want to walk to the convenience store, would they walk by the charger stations to the south to get it over to the convenience store? Or would they have to, if the snow is going to be piled up to the west of them, how would they get to the convenience store without walking out into the road?
Are you on the pedestrian access sheet, Jim?
No,
Okay, that's the next one.
that's the next
I think
one.
that will answer the
Okay.
question.
Oh, they're gonna address that, okay.
Yeah, so previously, the way that it's built now, there is no pedestrian access way from the charging stations into the parking lot, nothing direct. So one of the concerns was that, you know, it could promote people to be actually walking within the road. So we are going to basically create a, you know, a sidewalk essentially from the charging stations that will connect into the parking lot. So it'll be much easier access.
How does the customer on the further right get to the sidewalk?
Yeah, I mean, they might have to walk around the car or something like that. I mean, I guess it's,
In the winter time?
yeah, in the wintertime, they might have to walk behind the cars, but I think they're gonna be, you know, looking out for any vehicle.
Was there any way to extend that sidewalk to access all 4 of the charging stations?
Might go behind a little bit.
Yes. So there's no chance that anybody's walking out in the road, especially in the wintertime?
Yeah, I don't think that should be an issue. Volunteer. Yeah, we should.
You need 5 feet.
Mhm.
Probably have a little wrap around on the backside there. Obviously, you don't want to impact the drainage
Yeah.
coming off of that corner. But that was gonna be one of my comments also, is just making sure that the sidewalk is, all
Extends
4
to-
stalls are
Okay.
accessible.
Yeah, I think that, I'm pretty sure we can find a way.
Back to the
Back
snow.
to, yeah, go
For
ahead.
just a second. Brett Hughes, the Director of Business Development and Real Estate from Moravido, October 18th. To whom it may concern, Moravido, owner of the gas station at 7073 New York 281, has reviewed the attached snow removal plan in conjunction with the new electric vehicle EV charging stations being built on our property. And we can confirm that it will be followed when we remove snow. Moravido will not plow into the road and will use the designated areas identified on the snow removal plan or elsewhere on our property. Sincerely, Brett. Well, that's the letter that, as long as you don't put it in the road, I'm happy with it. I also understand that in practice, and it's not just town of Preble, no town moves snow. We plow it and it goes, everybody gets what they get, you know? There's a reason there's 4 or 5 ski areas within 25 miles of here.
But again, to apply that at least to my thought on this, there's less place to put the snow than there was up till now. And there's gonna be more snow to move too, Jeff. Aren't you, when you plow the south side of Curry, you're heading towards Route 281. And it just seems to me, we're gonna peel snow over into those 4 spots.
Go into those 4 spots, we pull to the right, our plows are all set up as any municipal plow to plow to the right. And then the slight silver lining to that is we do carry some snow out and deposit along 281. I mean, that's, you know, what we carry in off at 281, we also take a little bit back out. It's just the way it works. But if you look to make that intersection work, close to 20 years ago when we widened that intersection out to get the trucks to be able to go make the big sweep, you look at it, it's a good sized intersection for you know, a 20-foot road, and that was because we were having tractor trailer issues getting around that intersection, which is that much more snow that's getting kicked off 281 into our intersection, and then we have to dispose of.
So to the question posed, I think the letter, right, if the letter is complied with, I think that does the job. I guess our observations are, you're gonna have to change maybe the way they do business as to snow removal. And that may be a significant difference than what they're accustomed to.
Would you expect the same amount of snow that when you'd be coming back around from the dead end where the apron of their driveway entrances for the parking lot? And So when you're kind of going down with the plow, the snow would be coming off the right-hand side where the apron of the parking lot is for entrance and exit. Would you imagine that it'd be kind of a similar amount of snow in front of the charging units as well?
It'd be similar.
Right. And then, so they would have to plow out that area where the snow leaves it, and then for both.
And we get there normally, as far as their contractor. We try not to get there at the same time because we're fighting with each other. But, in fact, there's times that, I'll cut out of there, but that's the first place I go at 3:30 in the morning.
Right.
Is up there to at least punch a hole, depending on what kind of snow we got. But that's one of what I call a flex road that I might go hit with a small truck just to get it open.
Yep.
So we don't have issues before our bigger trucks can make it around the route. Our routes are about 2.5 hours.
Okay.
So, you get a 2-3 hour storm, inches an hour.
Yeah.
We could be, have 6-8 inches of snow on the road, and then it all goes, and it's like this. So, knock on wood, the last couple of years, we were at 60 and 65 or 70 inches, I think, the last couple of years. Our normal snowfall here is 140 some inches.
Yeah.
So we'll take that letter that Jeff received by Marabito and assume that they will be taking care of the snow on their end. So I don't think we have to go anything more with snow. I think we can move on.
So the Veronica will be talking about the traffic study and the amount of cars coming past, but we did, want to give a heads up to the drivers when they are backing out. And I do want to note something. So, right, the charging stations are in the front of the parking spots. Now, it's a kind of a mix, like half and half, where the cars have the charging ports on the front of the vehicles or at the back of the vehicle. So if someone has the charging port on the front of the vehicle, they will pull into the spot and then they will back out into the road. The vehicles that have the charging port at the back of the station, at the back of the vehicle, will back into the parking spots and then you'll pull out into the road. So the ones that are going to have to be backing out into the road, we do plan to put these signs kind of right next to each of the charging stations, and it will say, caution when reversing. Those will be on the Marabito property, so there won't be any concerns about DOT approved sign.
A couple months ago, you guys submitted a revised signage plan that also had some warning signs west of the site. Are those still planned on being installed? They're not on this latest plan.
I believe we did remove those because there was concerns that those are on the actual roadway, and they would need to get DOT approval, and they were not DOT approved signs.
So, yeah, and I understand that Kinley Horn is in the process of seeking approval for those signs from DOT. There isn't like a formal approval process that has like a time frame associated with it, but they are engaged with DOT to seek approval for some of the signs that would also go on the roadway. But they didn't, DOT currently doesn't have signs that like provide that information.
So I'm clear and the board is clear, so there's two types of signs here we're talking about. One at the head of each of the 4 charging stations. And I think on that plan that Mark is referring to, there were maybe 3
3 or 4 of them, yeah.
It seemed like one sign was that, and they appeared to be off the road or close to that. And one seemed to be positioned in the direction of where Paul Bunyan's ingress and egress. And then the other 2 were oriented towards the west, so someone coming out of the Marabito north entry exit there would possibly see those as they turn to the right.
Correct.
So that's the second step, and so that would be done if approved.
Yeah, because those signs are like on the roadway, they require the DOT approval, whereas these signs that are at the head of the charging stations don't require the DOT approval. They're more like interior site signage.
And then just back on your pedestrian.
Mhm.
I mean, is your client or is someone then committing, if approved, committing to extend this walkway so that it's accessible to the easternmost of the four?
Yes.
You're saying that that can be done?
We will make that modification.
I have one other question, just, and I've asked this before, and I just wanna make sure that it's asked in front of everyone. There's no opportunity to, and I've looked at a couple of these that you have throughout the state, the one in Binghamton on Vestal, the Vestal Parkway or Vestal Ave or whatever it is down there. The one up in Syracuse is right down the road from my office. To avoid having somebody have to pull in frontward because of their charging is on the front of the vehicle, which is usually the side. Is there a way to have an extended conduit cord
These are
that
the
will get
longest,
to it?
yeah, these are the longest cables available.
I'll also just add that in talking to Electrify America about that, they mentioned that longer cables pose different safety risks,
Understood.
which is why they keep the cables relatively short.
Thank you.
So now I'm gonna turn over to Veronica, who's gonna discuss the traffic study.
Veronica, with Human Horn, traffic engineer. So, as requested, we performed 7-day count in front of where the charging stations are located on Curry Road. We collected volume and speed data for 7 days, and we found that the maximum number of vehicles in any given hour were less than 198 to be exact, from 7 to 8 a.m. On average, it's 91, and this is in the AM peak hour. It's lower in the PM and then the weekend as well, as you can see here. So in terms of the volumes, in terms of the speeds, sorry, we found that the speeds on Curry Road are relatively low. Eastbound, it's on average 14 miles an hour. And that's in part due to the fact that a lot of vehicles are already slowing down before they get to the stop sign at the intersection of 281. And westbound, it's 17 miles an hour. So it's relatively low speeds for safety reasons. That is very beneficial for, backing out. So if a vehicle is starting to back out, they can see that vehicle is beginning to back out and stop in time before, colliding with them. We also gathered some data from 2 other sites in the general vicinity. One is in Oneonta and one's in Syracuse North. They have 4 and 3 charging stations respectively. The average duration of parking at those 2 sites were 32 minutes, and that's from connect to disconnect of the vehicle, so that doesn't include arrival time, paying, and actually connecting the vehicle and disconnecting. So it would be slightly longer times than that. On average, the maximum number of vehicles exiting per hour at those sites were 4 and 7 vehicles, and these are in slightly more densely populated areas right off the highway, right off 81. So we believe that this in Preble, this site is likely to get around maybe 6 vehicles per day, per hour, maybe I think it was 3. So in terms of safety, that's hopefully a little bit better. There's a low risk for accidents at the facility is basically what I'm trying to get at. So do you have any questions about either the volume or speed data or the other sites nearby? Or anything about traffic in general?
No, I'll get into a couple things when I get a second here, but I agree with those.
Okay. And then we had 4 other, let me pull we had 4 other examples of vehicles backing out onto roadways in the general vicinity. One right here in Preble. One in Geneva, New York, along this street, Exchange Street. Seneca Falls as well, Bridge Street. And then Main Street in Newark. I believe that is the end of the presentation. Any questions?
You don't know of any other charging stations situated in this same fashion, do you? Or maybe that's not something here.
For our sites, no. Don, like I mentioned last week when we spoke, there's our site in Plattsburgh. It's in a shopping center, but it's a through road in the shopping center where cars are backing out. And there's, we don't know the exact numbers, but there's probably even more volume on that road because it's like in a, I think like a Sam's Club or Costco parking lot. So there's a lot of traffic in there. One other item I would like to bring up in terms of safety in general, like, NYPA as an entity of the state, we have to take safety very serious as well. If there's a lot of accidents, if there's negative reviews, it's going to look very badly on our organization, on the state in general. So we do feel comfortable moving forward with this site as is based on everything presented, all the mitigation efforts we're going to take. Mirabel feels as well the same way that this is, a dead end road, that there's really not significant traffic or safety risk.
One other thing that I wanted to add, which I know was referenced in the traffic study, is that there are backup cameras with and sensors in EV in electric vehicles, which provides additional resources to a driver backing out.
Are these the sensors that pick up a vehicle that's coming in either direction? Not just your visual camera, it has a beep.
Yeah,
As my old car did that. Okay.
I don't have it per se, but it is nice.
Any other questions?
Yeah, the sidewalk you're proposing to put in there, so when they walk back towards going to the store, they can be walking in front of the diesel pumps or behind?
There is, I think, a full view.
In
Here
front.
it is.
I think they just become open to walking anywhere once they get to the parking lot. There's nothing that's.
I think they're most likely to walk in front. Like,
The truck's gonna be facing that way, so if they're walking in front, you're sitting in the truck, you'll see somebody right in front. Tractor trailer, and somebody's walking right.
Yeah.
Right.
Here, so he's just asking if they're gonna
Well,
be walking.
The sidewalk is right here,
yeah, I mean, I'm.
and then trucks are parked right here.
Mhm.
Yeah, them trucks are parked, you're sitting way up there, you're gonna go out and see somebody if you're walking right in front of the truck.
There's no, once they get to the parking lots, whatever they go, they go.
People don't walk.
He's concerned that if people are walking along here, there's trucks that are parked here, like where this truck is, that they won't be able to see someone like in front of them. That's a good idea.
I mean, there could be an option for Rapido, maybe put a sign for pedestrians on that walkway. So just come across and you drive a truck, you can't see somebody right in front.
Mhm.
You never know, someone's walk right in front of the truck. Exactly. That's something
Yeah.
I mean, maybe even this is a Marabido deal. I mean, maybe even a hash mark that goes through the parking lot that just shows as a dedicated pedestrian corridor.
Yeah, like a stripe.
Yeah, because we are going to paint the parking spots in the charging station, so we could, just
stripe that.
keep on painting.
Yeah. Then it's an awareness for the pedestrians, an awareness for the truck drivers, awareness for vehicles. It's just a heightened safety.
Okay, Mark, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, my name is Mark Budash. I work for Barton and the Judas. I'm a consulting engineer. I'm also in the traffic world. I've asked a lot of the questions that I was gonna bring up as part of this presentation. The one thing I just wanted to add that there's really nothing in this traffic report that I don't agree with. It's before I received it, I kind of felt that this is where it was all gonna go anyway, and this is what we were gonna see. I think we can all agree that, whenever vehicles are backing out into a public right of way, there's a safety concern. As minimal as we might look at it, there's always a safety concern. The examples that were brought up of other areas, you're usually looking at a public parking spots that are in the public right of way that's used by the public within the public right of way, where this is a situation where you have a private entity that's parking within the public right of way, backing into a public right of way. The example down here, down the street here in Preble, there's probably a 10-foot, 11-foot space behind the parking spots that they can back out into and then pull forward into the travel lane. You're basically butting right up to the edge of pavement. You're backing out of the traffic. With that being said, there's obviously with the dead end, there's a reduced amount of traffic. The traffic speeds are low. Even with that being said, you got braking distances based on those speeds. You're looking at ranging from 31 feet to 60 feet in braking distance. For anybody that's coming, yes, they are slowing down because they're entering an intersection to a stop sign, but anybody that's coming out of the furthest driveway at Paul Bunyan, they're going to be, traveling. There was, I think, I want to say, don't quote me on this, 32 to 35 cars that were doing 20 to 25 miles an hour in that direction. That's, it's not part of the 85th percentile by any means, but there is traffic that's moving at, much. So you're looking at a 65 or 60 foot braking distance as you approach these. The sites that were referenced, the Oneonta, the Syracuse North, I would go back to the Binghamton one also. They're all situations where everything's contained into a parking lot. You're not entering into, right away. They have a chance to navigate the parking lot, then enter into the public right away. I understand the use of it here just to show the amount of use that it will get at these stations, which I agree with the conclusions that are made there. I think we're really just looking here to, make sure that, we all hope there's never an accident. We're just trying to protect that, if there is that, it hopefully doesn't happen in the towns, towns right away and stuff like that. One other comment that I had in regards to the parking spaces, these being perpendicular parking spaces, has there ever been a thought of angling these spots? Is that something that's an opportunity to angle them? I've also thought about, can you add space in between the spaces? Yes, you have the handicap spot here that has loading on both sides, but can you add 2 feet in between to open up that sight distance a little?
The issue is the chargers are already installed with
Understood.
concrete pads and conduits already been poured. To do modifications at this point is difficult. And then to angle the spaces, then you don't. I just think there's not enough vertical distance, north south, to do that at this point.
Like I said, I've asked most of the questions that I had. My other concern is the pedestrians, access point. If snow removal, we've received the letter. The snow removal is still an issue. That one location that's being showed, which I believe is going to be the primary snow dump for these, because it's a short distance to move. We just got to make sure that that snow isn't being dumped onto the sidewalk itself or piles up high enough behind the sidewalk that anybody entering that parking lot by the diesel stations there is not being blocked by anybody, basically the pedestrians or the vehicular traffic that's coming in and out of the parking lot there. So if we're going to revisit, I don't know if, we've got the letter. I don't know if you guys are going to go back and look at the snow removal or even talk to Marabido about that, but that's something we just need to, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go.
So the snow removal plan basically shows, snow being put right here in this area, right? So you're gonna end up taking it out of here, you're gonna move it down here, and then you're gonna plow it across this sidewalk. If this piles up here to what I've seen at, many of the local businesses, that you're gonna have a 10-foot high snow pile here eventually over the whole summer or over the whole winter. And this is gonna end up being a hazard, right there. So that would be a concern that the town has. Just for pedestrian safety wise.
And just to follow up with that, so let's say, it's great, we're sitting here, there's no snow yet, and great design, a lot of input. And a year and a half from now, it's January, and Jeff is tired of dealing with maybe a little bit of fallback from our promises made in October. Or the pedestrian walkway is, continually or often restricted or blocked. Who do we call?
I think you start with Maravido, but the stations operate for at least 10 years. That's our agreement with Maravido. So we're going to be there, and we're not going anywhere. So we'll continue to support. And you could find someone on New York Power Authority that will be willing to support this.
I'm sorry, I could what?
You find someone at New York Power Authority, like myself, Mario. We'll if Maravido's not, living up to their end of the deal, the New York Power Authority will, support this effort to make sure that these concerns are addressed.
So it's really incumbent on Maravido. You have the agreement with them, and Electrify America is kind of operating the station, but they don't have that obligation to fulfill these follow-throughs.
Well, with like the snow removal, no, because it's Maravido's agreement. Our agreement with Electrify America is to operate the charging stations, make sure they're working. If there's any issues, the customers call their call center. They deal with all the payment, all that kind of stuff. But something like with actual site, they're not a party to our agreement with Maravido.
I think of it kind of like they do the tech side of it, right? And service the machines. Like the machines are computers, so they handle like the tech side of it and making sure the machines are operating correctly and service them if there's an issue.
Just out of curiosity, what's the cost to charge a car?
So these fast chargers are pretty equivalent to like $3.50 a gallon of gas. So, it's like $20, $30 to fill up the car.
Not big enough for the track, is there? Well, I don't know if we have any other questions, Jim. I mean, we, the board, and myself as their attorney, have considered this whole thing in the context of number one, safety, number two, liability, and number three, potential litigation. So I would propose to the board that we go into executive session because that's still out there hovering around, although no one has, asserted that in any direct fashion. But I think we're entitled to go into executive session to talk about this in that context, if you so desire. I'm not saying we have to,
Yes.
but because that's one of the considerations we've had.
And then we will reconvene after that again and try to wrap this up.
And more questions or
Mhm.
discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. So we need a motion to go into executive session. We need to vote on that.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to go into a second session.
7:52.
Suck it.
All in favor? Carried. Okay.
So there's not a lot of room out there, folks.
Sorry.